Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing installment of Two Matts, One Steve. I'm Matt from Lincoln. He's Matt from Memphis.
Yo.
and we have Steve here in Lincoln as well.
Yep, watching this guy do some bullshit all in.
Yes, as we do every week, ladies and gentlemen, we are playing some Providence Poker on PlayStation. So just friends gathering together to play some badass poker and talk entertainment, television, movies, whatever.
Man, Steve, what is happening?
Steve's going all in, 42,000.
Yep.
What do I haven't even looked.
Trying.
I'm doing it, Steve. We're starting the show this way. Oh boy! So Steve's got a pair of eights. Ladies and gentlemen,
I have a pair of fours. I'm going to see what happens. I would have three of a kind.
Okay, so we're setting the stage here. Steve's got a pair of eights. We got a pair of fives, king and queen.
Give me an eight.
And Steve, I think you won it. Did you?
I think so.
I think you won it. Yeah, you won with your pair of eights.
I have turned a profit after busting out earlier in the night.
You won it.
I'm just gonna leave the game so I keep all of this and come back.
I should have stayed in. I would have three of a kind. Three of a kind.
Yeah.
No, you made the right call, Roden. Fuck you.
Wow. So I was up to 60,000. I just dropped to 4,000 chips with that. But hey, I went in with a king queen. What can we say? So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two Matts, One Steve, as we play poker. And tonight we are going to discuss what's on everyone's mind: the Book of Boba Fett. What did we think of it? Did it live up to our expectations?
No.
Spoiler alert.
I mean, wait, we didn't have expectations, so yes, it did.
That's true. That's true. So we're going to get into all of that. Please feel free, if you like the show, send us an email at outpostunknown@gmail.com. You have a piece of media you'd like us to watch and discuss, let us know, and we'll put it on the docket. You got a topic of conversation you'd like us to discuss, we'll put that on the docket as well. outpostunknown@gmail.com. With that, let's get into it. Ronan, why don't you set the stage for us here? Tell us just real quickly what you thought of the character of Boba Fett going into this series, and what your expectations were before we get into it.
My expectations before the series started was Boba Fett was a cool costume. And
All right, Steve, what were your expectations of Boba Fett?
I was expecting them to have to create a character where one didn't exist, and I was correct. They just created a real stupid one. Matt, do I want to do this? Yes or no?
Yes.
Too late. Too late. You didn't answer.
Okay, I'm folding because I had a 2-9. I had nothing at all.
This guy is just going in on absolutely nothing.
Yeah, he is.
That's his strategy. We know the type. He's one of those who's full of shit.
All right, so Matt, I feel like you probably
yes.
You
yes,
can
the
set
answer
up
is yes.
the story, but you can set up the story better than we can because you were much more invested in this than I feel. So what?
Yeah.
Like, there's 7 episodes, and we've already talked about the first one. Like, can you briefly cover what happens in 2 through 7?
Well, I'm going to also briefly cover a little bit of 1 as well, because I'm not going to go back and re-edit all that shit into this. So we're just going to cover the whole series on this, and we're going to have to deal with it. Ladies and gentlemen, originally the first episode of Two Matts, One Steve, the second episode was we talked about the first episode of Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett. We're going to go through every episode with it, but then we just kept pushing off for whatever reason, scheduling issues. We couldn't really do the whole. So.
It's because nothing interesting happened in the show.
Yes, nothing interesting was happening.
It wasn't scheduling. It was us going, well, maybe next episode stuff will happen.
Kinda, yeah.
Maybe next episode they'll the plot of the show will suddenly appear before us.
Yes,
it never did.
So unlike you guys, because what I think is interesting about this and what might be the best kind of discussion for it is. You guys, on that very first episode we did, you said you basically had no expectations of Boba Fett because you just didn't. He had no backstory to you guys. He was a nothing sort of character in the movies, so you didn't have any expectations. I did. I grew up really loving the character of Boba Fett, and so I came into the Book of Boba Fett with a very different set of eyes than what you guys did, and so. you know, Boba Fett I thought was awesome in Mandalorian Season 2. I thought his introduction was awesome. I thought all the help that he gave Mando was awesome. Boba Fett was just kick-ass in Mandalorian Season 2. And when we got that stinger at the very end where it says coming soon the Book of Boba Fett, and he fucking shoots Bib Fortuna dead and he just sits on the throne, you're like, wow, okay, what are we in store for? I mean, that's pretty badass. We're going to see more badass from Boba, obviously, in this. Can't wait. Turns out...
The lie detector test showed that was a lie.
That wasn't quite the case, but I think I might have a different perspective overall. Now that I've had a chance to let the whole show percolate in my mind a little, I might have a slightly different take on it ultimately than what you guys do. But ultimately, the very first episode of the season, we get to sort of see very briefly Boba Fett in the Sarlacc and how he escaped the Sarlacc. I will say very underwhelmingly. Did not feel like there was he just sort of burns his way and then claws his way out through the sand. We just talked about in the previous episode about suspension of disbelief. That felt a little suspension of disbeliefy to me. I didn't quite see
They
how
could
that
have
worked.
made a whole episode of him in the Sarlacc.
Absolutely. They could have done all kinds of cool stuff with him in the
The important
Sarlacc.
thing is that they didn't.
Yeah, for the show, that's going to be the thing. So basically, Boba Fett when he makes his way out of the Sarlacc, he's basically kind of unconscious. Jawas steal all of his armor, and these Tusken Raiders basically kidnap him, I guess, and make him a slave in their, I guess, little, clan out in the Dune Sea. And over the course of a number of the first few episodes of the show, you sort of get these flashbacks where Boba Fett is sort of coming to learn to live with the Sand People. And the Sand People, if we can say that. I don't know if Sand People now is politically incorrect, but the Sand People / Tusken Raiders, they sort of raise him and they train him in their culture. They teach him how to fight with a gaffy stick, for example. And Boba Fett sort of comes to sort of respect and sort of love these Tusken Raiders. Now, meanwhile, you have stuff taking place in the present. So he's basically in a back-to-tank for the first few episodes in certain scenes, and it flashes back to his time with the Sand People. But in the present, he and Fennec Shand, who took over Jabba's palace, they want to be crime lords, and they want to sort of, I guess, ostensibly rule. Take over Jabba's sort of criminal enterprise, but rule with respect, not with fear. And what I guess respect means is just believing what everyone tells you. That's sort of...
Take everything on face value.
Pretty much. So Boba Fett...
never kill anyone.
Yeah, Boba Fett doesn't really want to kill people. He just kind of wants to... Well, I guess that's one of the criticisms. We don't really know what he really wants to do. That's one of the criticisms. He just kind of...
I don't think he knows either.
Yeah, I mean, and let me say up front here, Matt and Steve are going to critique this in a lot of ways, this whole show, in many, many ways. And I will say up front, I can't really argue against any of their critiques. So as I think about this show more and more, I would love to sit here and be like, you know what, Ronan, fuck you. You didn't think about this angle, and this is what this is really... I can't. I got to say up front, as a Boba Fett fan, I cannot critique any arguments that you guys are going to make for the show. But hopefully, once you guys do yours, I'll come at it from a slightly different angle, and maybe you guys can at least get on my level a little bit or understand a little bit more. But
there were 2 good episodes of Boba Fett.
But over the course of the show, Boba Fett decides, he's going to take over Jabba's criminal empire, and he has all the different sort of capos. This is kind of, on the surface level gangster sort of thing. Think, The Godfather, where there's all the different factions, and they all sort of pay homage to the Godfather himself. But the Godfather is the one that rules it all. Boba Fett tells all of his capos and other gangster people, just stay out of it. Let me take care of these pikes who are coming in, and they're running spice. Spice is like the heroin, the meth, the crack of the Star Wars universe, right? It fucks everybody up. And Boba Fett says running spice is wrong. Okay, so we're gonna stop this spice. 7-2 offsuit. I had to do it, guys.
Nice.
So I went in with 7-2 offsuit, everybody. That's where we're at right now. And oh my God, could I possibly win this? Maybe not. No, she got the straight. Did she get the straight? 6, 7, 8,
She does
9?
now.
Fuck. Damn it. I was
Oh,
close.
no, everybody has a straight. Everybody has a straight. You're just going to split it.
Did it?
What?
Did we all get it?
Oh, he had a jack. He had the high split, or the high straight.
Got it straight
Almost,
on 7-2
Matt.
offset, almost, but I had to do it. So I busted twice, but that one doesn't count because we require ourselves to go all in on 7-2 offsuit. It's a thing that we do. So basically, Boba Fett wants to stop the spice. It sort of then completely changes for 2 episodes and focuses on Din Djarin and the Mandalorian and Grogu and Luke Skywalker. Boba Fett.
Real reason.
There are two.
Add that in.
There are
no real reason.
There are 2 hours in the middle of the Book of Boba Fett in which Boba Fett is in the show for literally like 30 seconds, and he doesn't say a word. One episode he's not in it at all, and one episode he just stands there and nods. And that is literally it. And then we have...
I feel Matt left out the fact that this happens for no real reason.
Well, I might have a different take on that as we get there. But we'll get there. Just hold your horses. We'll get there. And so the finale is, all of our heroes get together and try to fight off the Pikes, which are a completely stupid... uninteresting villain. They should have kept the Hutts. The Hutts were in the opening episodes of this. You're like, oh shit, that's cool. Like the Hutts, they're gonna call in all the other bounty hunters. In the previous episode, our Texas Chainsaw Massacre episode, I mentioned, when Leatherface is carving his way through a bus of all these kids, and sometimes it works on a level. It's like just give me what I want to see in a certain sense. I don't care how you get there. Whether it's Spider-Man: No Way Home in our first episode we talked about, it doesn't really matter to me what excuse you give to have me see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield together. Doesn't matter. Just get me there, and I'm going to be happy. What I felt like was the biggest miss of the Book of Boba Fett is everybody wanted a specific thing, and they didn't give it to me. So, for example... wouldn't it have been awesome if the Hutts were the main villains and they hired all of the fucking bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back, and Boba Fett had to go up against all of these different bounty hunters like Bosk and Danger and IG-88, all of this shit? That we would have loved to have seen that. That would have been pretty fucking awesome. But they didn't give it to us. Every time they would give us a little taste of something that we really, really wanted, they basically took it away from us. Oh, sweet, you introduced Cad Bane. Boom, you just take him out in the next episode. He's just dead. Cad Bane is an awesome character. They should have had him. Boom, the end of episode 1, Cad Bane should have shown up, and we would have known that, okay, we're going to take the Pikes, the threat of the Pikes a little more seriously, because we know Cad Bane's running around, and we know Cad Bane's setting shit up in the background. They didn't do it. I completely understand with the critique of this show. Well, before I get into it, Ronan, we'll throw it to you first. Your thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett overall, your critiques, if there's anything you thought was good about it, feel free, just your overall thoughts on this show in general.
I will start off with the positives. The theme song is pretty catchy. Which is amazing.
I will now end the positives.
The theme song is pretty catchy. That I find myself humming it. The dum 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 like that. That's a pretty catchy tune. When it stops being the Book of Boba Fett and becomes 2 episodes of The Mandalorian season 3, that was pretty cool. It's like now we know what the setup for Mandalorian season 3 is. He's got to go bask in the deep well waters of the planet Mandalore to regain his honor. Although he's got the dark saber, and by Mandalorian rule, it's kind of like having the Pope hat.
He doesn't want it though. He doesn't really want it.
He has the Pope hat, Matt.
He does have it.
The rules.
He does.
He gets to make the rules. Well, from now on, whenever I take my helmet off and my helmet off exclusively, it doesn't count. Fuck you. Is how it should have gone. But no, we need a 3rd season. So that's what he's going to do. It's going to be him and Grogu going to the planet Mandalore to, quench themselves in the blood of Babylon or whatever the fuck is down there. So that's cool that we know what's going to happen in season 3. Danny Trejo. It was good to see Danny Trejo.
I disagree with that.
Though?
I firmly disagree with that. The reason why, getting back to this discussion of things that take you out of a show, Robert Rodriguez directed the worst episodes of this show, and that kind of shocks me, honestly, because he directed the episode in Mandalorian Season 2 where Boba Fett showed up and they wrecked shop, and that was an awesome episode. It had awesome action, had all kinds of cool stuff in it, and he just dropped the ball on these, and it was just like, really? I mean, if he would have Danny Trejo, like he was an alien or something, that's one thing, but it's like, okay, it's just Danny Trejo. I didn't look at him as a Rancor keeper. I looked at him like, oh, well, Robert Rodriguez's friend. He's going to put his friend in a bit role here, and he didn't even come back. He had nothing to do. Like, where the Rancor keeper, Danny Trejo, was gone after that. I hated that. Hated that cameo.
But yeah, that's right now.
I hate you, Steve. I hate you.
That would have worked in any context, even without Steve. But
just generally, Steve, I hate you. Hate you.
That's fine. That's fine. I accept it.
But yeah, those. I mean, it may sound kind of like snarky, but those are kind of sort of like the positives that I have for the show. Yeah, like even like even the episodes of it that are actual bona fide Boba Fett episodes, not repurposed Mandalorian episodes, that are good. Like the second episode, that one's pretty good because it's telling you a story about Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And like it actually has a cause and effect to it, which the rest of the show doesn't have. So that's why the second episode is pretty good.
Yeah, I would argue the only pure Boba Fett episode in this entire series was episode 2. And episode 2, and you mentioned it when we talked about this the first time, it was awesome. You actually saw Boba Fett thinking of a plan, executing that plan, winning, coming out, on top and helping out, the Sand People and everything. And it just worked. It had an awesome action sequence. That whole thing with the train was great.
And it gave us one of the most wonderful moments ever, like a bantha.
What is the like a bantha moment?
Yeah, I explain this. Speak more on this.
The meme where he's on the scooter, it's like, and then you ride it like a bantha, and he does that stupid smile.
Okay, I gotcha. Because I didn't know what you're talking about.
You posted the fucking meme in the Discord chat.
I get it.
I didn't connect.
It ain't making me laugh, but I get it.
Yeah, I understand. I apologize, Ronan. I apologize. Apologies. But yeah, so episode 2 was the only actual real Boba Fett episode. I remember us after we watched the first episode, even I was just like, well, nothing really happened in the first episode, and we weren't really sure where it was going. Episode 2, I was back on board. I'm like, this would be awesome. Here's what I thought was going to happen. I thought that his muscle, because one of the big complaints of this, he wants to be this big crime boss. It's literally him, Fennec Shand, and like 2 Gamorrean guards at the beginning of this.
Who are the best characters in the show?
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, where's his muscle? I thought for sure, I'm like, if I was writing this, how awesome would it have been if Boba Fett walks into town, in the middle of the town, right? And he's like, hey, I'm taking over. I'm taking shit over. And all of these other crime lords are like, you and what army? You got nothing. And they're just laughing at him. And then a fucking army of Tusken Raiders comes into town. And guess what? It's already established in canon. Everybody on Tatooine is fucking scared of Tusken Raiders because Tusken Raiders have been established in canon in the fucking movies as everyone's terrified of them because they're awesome warriors. Even Fennec Shand, when Boba Fett, they actually established Boba Fett murders a bunch of innocent people in here because he kills this biker gang that he thought murdered his Tusken Raider family, and it turns out, nah. They didn't. They were just set up. So they literally show Boba Fett murdering like 10 to 15 bikers in this. But even Fennec Shand tells Boba Fett, it's like, nah, I can't believe a a speeder bike gang took out a bunch of Tuskens. That doesn't make any sense. Literally tells him, and he still doesn't believe it. And I think the most egregious thing that this show did for the Boba Fett that fans wanted was they made him a complete fucking idiot all the way through. All the way through, except episode 2. Episode 2, he's not an idiot, and he actually completes a goal, and he's smart about it, but they just make him a fool, an absolute fool. And I think that is the reason people really dislike the show. There's other problems. It's completely like the tone and just the structure of it is all out of whack. Like just having the decision to make 2 Mandalorian episodes just randomly out of the blue, it just killed the pacing. Even if you were following it for Boba Fett and you were into the show, because I knew people who liked the show, and they had no problem with the way Boba Fett was depicted. And to your sort of point, the quote unquote normies who never thought of Boba Fett as any sort of cool, interesting character. They didn't have the background of all the lore from the books and the comics and the video games and all that. All they knew was, oh yeah, that's that guy, to your point, Ron, that's that guy in that cool costume who was in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. If that was your only knowledge of Boba Fett going into this, I can totally see people enjoying the Boba Fett character in this, because he's a good guy. He's just trying to be this good, redeemed character. That's a classic trope. But the thing is, like, if you are a fan of Boba Fett from all the other expanded universe media, even within the actual canon that Lucasfilm has set up with the comics that are going on, like Darth Vader, in canon, Darth Vader hires him. It's Boba Fett that fucking finds Luke Skywalker, has a fight with Luke Skywalker on Tatooine. He's the one that tells Darth Vader, hey, yeah, it's your kid. Yeah, this is your kid. They've been establishing Boba Fett as a specific type of character in canon. And then in this, he just does the dumbest things possible at every point. It's the same sort of stuff like it took me out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, you watch it and like these characters are just doing the dumbest shit possible, and it detracts from my enjoyment of the show. Like why is Boba Fett, he meets these teenage kids and in like 10 seconds he's like, guess what, I'm gonna hire you, you're my muscle now. Like, really? That's where we're gonna go with this? And even like in the same episode, whatever, maybe it was the episode after, he's literally like Black Chrysanthemum somehow breaks into Jabba's palace. Let's just roll with it. Somehow he breaks in.
I know how he breaks in. It's because he had shit security. That's
he has no security. Basically, that's what it is. He's got.
That's how it is.
Like I'm asking questions. Okay, Boba Fett wants to be this badass crime lord, yet he is unprotected in a back-to-tank for X amount of time every single day. It seems like it'd be incredibly simple to just take Boba Fett out at any point in time. Even the big finale, right? The last episode. Fennec Shan is making this huge thing. They're cross-cutting to where all Boba's muscles at in all the different areas of Mos Espa, and how they can identify everything. And it's like they're literally standing out in the middle of the fucking street. They're not hiding. They're not. There's no plan here. Like the plan is for the Vespa Squad to just drive down the middle of a street where we've already established all of these gangsters run all of these areas. It makes no sense. Like the plan made no sense.
He had a deal with those gangsters,
and that's the thing. It's
that is the part. Like,
go ahead.
I tried to stick with Boba Fett. Even after all of the crap, I was willing to give it a shot even up until the final episode. And the final episode portrays Boba Fett like a child that doesn't know that lying is a thing. Earlier in the series, he gets all of the other crime bosses. He tries to get them to, actually like fight for him, and of course they turn him down. But then he says, just remain neutral. You don't have to support me, but don't side with the Pike Syndicate. And they agreed to this deal under basically threat of Rancor mauling. So they've agreed to this deal under duress. And so an episode later, when the final fight's about to take place, of course, the bad guys turn on him. You know, and Boba Fett's like, you know, we had a deal. You know, the deal that was made under threat of Rancor death. But he's like,
altering the deal.
Yeah, he gets told, you know, they've turned on us, and he's like, what do you mean they've turned on us? We had a deal. Like, I clearly called no takebacks. Like, you know, what's going on here?
It's real. It's
he had
real
no
shit.
plan. He had no plan in place for these crime bosses who he threatened into taking a deal to turn on him. Even Mandalorians, like, that was the smart play on their part.
Yeah, and I don't have a defense for that. I mean, it's just bad writing. If I was going to say anything at all about this, I would say Fennec Shand is the gangster in this show. She points out to Boba Fett multiple times, this is a stupid idea. Like, what are you doing? This is dumb. It's super stupid. She's the one going around murdering all of them. At the end of the finale, she's the one that goes to the Pikes and the Ithorian mayor. She kills them all. Like, you don't see Boba Fett doing that. And, you know, as someone who is a fan of Boba Fett, the character, and I know a ton of the stories and the lore behind Boba Fett, there's a specific sort of, you know, like I've said, same sort of thing with, like, Luke Skywalker, right? You have an expectation that the character has been set up a specific way from the jump, and then when it just so suddenly changes and it's like a different character that you've grown to love, there's going to be a little bit of natural resentment from that. Now, that being said, I am absolutely not opposed to them telling a story that Boba Fett, he's a different person now. He came out of the Sarlacc pit. I loved everything with the Tusken Raiders. I loved all of that. I wish they would have went way further. I mean, I wish we would have gotten to... I understand why they didn't show the Tusken Raiders getting taken out now, because the twist was, it was the Pikes all along. That was a stupid twist, you know. I would have loved for them, you know, to actually incorporate the Tusken Raiders more. Like I said, have the Tusken Raiders from the beginning be Boba Fett's muscle. And everybody's freaked out because there's Tusken Raiders in town now, because everybody's scared of Tusken Raiders. That's been established in Star Wars lore and canon. But regardless, I mean, I loved all that stuff. The Mandalorian stuff, loved all that stuff. You know, Mando is just an awesome character. And I think, to your point, Ronan, what you said is apt. Mandalorian, when it came out, that was the Boba Fett, the version of Boba Fett people wanted from the beginning. Even though I would argue Mando gets his ass kicked in every episode in the first season. And we even made that comment. People seem to forget that now. He gets his ass beat every single episode. But still,
he also doesn't have like 30 years worth of comics and books
exactly.
and video games claiming that he is supposed to be the ultimate badass. He doesn't have that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that. You learn with him.
Yeah, and I don't sort of buy this argument that people say it was like, well, Boba Fett was, you know, he's just a costume, etc., etc. It's like, no, there's a reason why so many people, like, for example, we're talking about the ratings, and the ratings of the Book of Boba Fett were far beyond the ratings of The Mandalorian. And you might think, like, well, how is that even possible? Because clearly The Mandalorian was better than this show. But that's just, I think, the popularity of Boba Fett. There's a reason so many Star Wars fans for decades have loved this character, who had like 7 minutes of screen time. You know, he's just a cool character, and with all the expanded universe stuff, he was just always portrayed as this really highly intelligent, cunning badass, and we don't see it at all in this show. The first fight scene he gets in, he lets his ass get beat down, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, dude, you got a jetpack. Why are you not using it? And as a viewer, that should not be what you're thinking about when you're watching the show. Should not be, Boba Fett has a jetpack. Why is he not flying up, just mowing all these people down? Because what you see is, even if you take Empire and Jedi out of the equation, just look at what Boba Fett did in Mandalorian Season 2. He was a badass. He was doing all kinds of shit in that. And he does none of that in this. And it is hard to fathom to me how the character, why the character was written this way. Because you could have had the same thing. You could have had Boba Fett have an entire arc where he becomes sort of like this redeemed sort of good guy character, but not be a complete idiot. not be like, hey, guys, our palace is completely fortified. He's correct in the finale when he says the palace is the best place to be. And it's literally some like 16-year-old girl who says, we want to stay.
We have to stay with the people.
Okay, I guess we're going to stay here. It's already established in canon. He can literally just press a button on his little his predator gauntlet thing there and have the Slave One fly in and just shoot the shit out of everything. Doesn't do it. And as a viewer and as a fan of the character, I completely understand why fans of Boba Fett are pissed off and disappointed by his portrayal in this. And I can't defend any of that. Now, I guess what I could say is that now ultimately, I mean, I would argue this is a good show. I'm not going to say it was a great show. I'm not going to say it was anywhere near on the level of Mandalorian, either season 1 or season 2, but I would still say it was a good show. The reason why I would argue it was a good show is because regardless of the things that I think were the failings of Boba Fett, how Jon Favreau wrote Boba Fett in this, I still think there was only one bad episode. That was episode 3. All the other episodes I think were at the very least okay or awesome. Yes, Mandalorian is the focus of episodes 5 and 6. There is no Boba Fett in there. Those are still awesome episodes. I thought that was and that's another interesting thing I want to talk about. If this show were named anything else but the Book of Boba Fett, would there be this much vitriol towards it? Because I don't think that's a valid argument. If this were the Book of Star Wars and the first 4 episodes were just Boba Fett doing this thing, and then it switched to Mandalorian doing this thing, and then it went back to sort of a finale with all of these characters together, I don't think that would be a valid argument for people to say. I do think it was wrong for them to call it the Book of Boba Fett, because I think it gives people a false impression of what the show's going to be. If you're going to do 2 completely different episodes where Boba Fett's not in it, people are coming to it because it says Boba Fett in the title. They're interested because it's about Boba Fett. But if they would have named it the Book of Star Wars, it would have been completely different.
They could have called it whatever they wanted, and it would not have changed the fucking thing. Because the problem with this show is episode to episode, the writing is just inconsistent. The character motivation is inconsistent. Changing the name of the show doesn't fix that. Doesn't fix the fact that the whole first part of the show, Boba Fett's like talking about how it's like he just straight up murders like what's his name, the guy who took over for
Bib
Jabba.
Fortuna just killed him, straight up dead.
Just straight up murders him in cold blood, which is what I would expect Boba Fett to do
based
on what I have been told about Boba Fett.
Absolutely.
And then after that point, seems very, very hesitant to even touch a gun outside of just like cradling it just for like appearance's sake.
Yes, it makes no sense.
The writing, and that, like what you just spent like you spent all this time talking about like how like nothing makes any sense. Like, changing the name of the show doesn't suddenly mean all those critiques you were just saying.
Right.
Now they're invalid.
But what I'm saying is, it would, if that is a specific criticism people are making of the show. They're saying it's called the Book of Boba Fett, and 2 episodes had no Boba Fett in it. My argument is, I don't think that's valid. I think if you called this the Book of Star Wars, no one would be saying, "Oh, it was called the Book of Boba Fett," and they wouldn't care that 2 episodes had Mando in it and no Boba Fett, because there'd be no expectation it was a show about Boba Fett.
But it still doesn't save the show.
Oh, I'm not arguing that it would necessarily
saving it. He's talking about that one specific criticism.
That one specific criticism. I can't combat any criticisms of how Boba Fett is portrayed in this. I feel like it was terrible writing. You cannot just shoot Bib Fortuna dead, and the next time we see you, be like, "I'm going to rule with respect, not fear." Well, why did you kill Bib Fortuna? Why did you just shoot him dead, and then suddenly, like, it was poorly written, and that it was kind of shocking to me.
Do you think the scripts for the show were written at the time that Mandalorian stinger happened? Do you think
I don't think so.
They just is it possible, and I would argue likely, that they just said, "Hey, it would be cool if Boba Fett did this," and so he kills Bib Fortuna, and then they wrote the episodes and just didn't bother to make those sync up?
It's hard to say because, production time, like, I mean, look how long it takes for a season of The Mandalorian to be done and completed with all the special effects and everything. I honestly don't know, because it just seems strange to me that, this came out so quick, because what did Mando ended like December, and then this came out the following December, so it was like 1 year production time, 7 episodes we're talking here.
It is substantially, if you look at it, it's a substantially. Cheaper makes it sound like it looks like shit, and it doesn't necessarily look like shit, but it also doesn't look nearly as good as The Mandalorian does, because most of The Mandalorian, like, the bulk of that's like all green screen stuff, like using the Unreal Engine to do all the background shit. And Book of Boba Fett seems as though most of it was using genuine sets that they had laying around somewhere. I could be wrong. I have no clue how the production for the what the production techniques for the show are, but that's probably part of it. Is like it doesn't look like it has the same quality of money going into it.
There are certainly certain things that look cheap. Like, for example, in episode 3, when the Vespa squad's doing their chase through the city, that looks super cheap. Like, you could tell, it's like, wow, this just doesn't have the budget. But then again, I mean, every television show has a strict budget. It feels like they saved the majority of the budget for the last 3 episodes. We got to make Luke Skywalker look good. We got to have this Rancor wrecking shop throughout an entire town. I think what probably happened was episodes 1, 3, and 4 got the short shrift when it came to budget. And then they put all the budget in episodes 2, 5, 6, and 7. Because 2 had that big train sequence, and that looks really good. Yeah. I mean, that's a really high. I mean, I could see something like that being in a feature film. Like, damn, that looks really, really good. But you could absolutely tell that a few of the episodes did not get the same budgetary treatment that the rest of them did. And it's too bad, because I understand. There's. Disney's a business, and they probably got $100 million or whatever to make all 7 episodes of this, and it's just kind of sad because it does look a little cheap, in certain spots, and I think that led to the disappointment that a lot of Star Wars fans had. They're like, number one, the biggest disappointment is Boba Fett's a complete fool in the entire show. Like, only in episode 2 does he do anything intelligent. Everything else is dumb. Fennec Shand is correct in literally everything she says the entire show, but she gets not really anything to do at all until the very end of the season, when she just shows up and kills everybody that Boba Fett. And that should have been Boba Fett. Boba Fett should have been the one that went and killed all those guys, not Fennec Shand. He doesn't do anything, really.
I was genuinely, for really real, expecting the big twist of the show to be Fennec, backstabs him at the end.
Yes,
of it.
That would have been awesome.
For Cad Bane.
Cad Bane should have killed him. Yeah, Boba Fett lost that fight.
Yeah. That anticlimactic fight.
I can't really disagree, and that's the sad thing. It's like, any criticism you guys make of this, as a Boba Fett fan, I cannot really have any comeback to any of it. But that being said, I still liked the show. No matter how disappointed I was with the writing of that particular character and some of the decisions that were made storytelling wise, I still enjoyed it. I would watch an episode, other than episode 3. I did not end an episode being like, oh my god, that was not interesting. No matter how stupid the decisions were in the finale, the final episode, I can't lie, I turned to Alyssa when I was watching, Boba Fett riding a Rancor, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this. I can't believe I'm seeing the things that I'm seeing on screen. Because it sort of took me back to that sort of childhood thing when I'm playing with toys and imagining, oh yeah, wouldn't it be cool if we had Boba Fett on a Rancor doing this kind of shit? I can't lie, I enjoyed watching it. That being said, I 100% agree with all of your critiques. I can't really combat them.
Yeah, I thought that same thing too when he was on the Rancor, but bizarrely enough, for a completely different reason, because I expected him to do again the smart thing and go for the Slave One, the thing that.
That's what. Does he use his ship at all in this series?
He uses his ship to kill innocent biker gang. because he shoots them all.
All right, so he uses it in the flashback. Does he use it at all in the present
Rancor.
after making such a big deal?
He goes to the Rancor, the Sarlacc pit with not Rancor, the Sarlacc pit with Fennec Shand.
That's still in the past. Steve was asking if he uses it in the present.
Oh,
that was a
very
past,
present.
Yeah, that was a past flashback.
No, he does not.
The flashback shows him going to great lengths to get his ship back, which he promptly apparently parks it somewhere and forgets it's there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like there was a YouTuber that made a really great point. That sequence in the finale when him and Mando. Fuck. I am not a millionaire anymore, by the way, guys. I've been busting out of everything. She got me on a flush. I am under 1 million ships.
On the river.
Just FYI, I'm at 800,000 ships now.
Oh my god!
I know, it's crazy.
I'm currently turning a 47K profit, just FYI.
And I did not have a bad hand there. I just got unlucky on the river. But there's a sequence that's awesome, right? Boba Fett and the Mandalorian are flying on their jetpacks. They're taking people out left and right. What Boba Fett should have done in Episode 1, they're doing in the finale. And you're like, sweet, this is awesome. And then what do they do after like 10 seconds? They land. And then they just get shot to shit. And I'm sitting here like watching this. I'm like, this does not make any sense. They're intentionally making these characters, even Mando, be complete idiots. Why are they landing to shoot things? Why are they not continuing to use the high ground? Don't do it, Anakin. I've got the high ground.
Use your spaceship.
And yes, it's awesome to have Boba Fett riding a Rancor. I mean, it's entertaining, it's cool. But if you think about it for any longer than like 2 seconds, you're like, okay, this makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Even when they've shown in canon that Boba Fett, he can run Slave One remote. Why would you not bring the Slave One in to kill all these droids? Why do you have Mando continuing to shoot these droids that have force fields? Looks cool, but it makes no sense logically. And the only way you can get around this is like Star Wars is for kids. It's just for kids.
Well, I actually had a snarky comment, but it's actually kind of true. It's like, well, why did he have to go for the Rancor? And in my mind, it's like, well, you see, Matt, and this is very true. About 2 months ago, Hasbro, via the Hasbro Pulse app, was doing like one of the little fan Kickstarter. If you back this project, we're going to make this $200, very articulate, high-scale, big play like a Rancor figure. And it just completely lost out in that funding to the Proton Pack that like blew the funding out of the water. But it's like, why did they do it? It's like, well, they had this badass toy coming out, and like, well, there's going to be a Rancor fight at the end of the book of Boba Fett. I don't know if those two things are connected, but what you were saying about, well, because it's for kids or collectors who want their cool toy to put Boba Fett on, so it can be on in their Star Wars room. It's like it's so people want to buy the cool toy.
Well, I also think that
which did not get made.
Like the argument that Star Wars is for kids, I think is a little bit of a, I won't say a false argument. I think it can be used as a false argument because you could make great stories for kids that don't involve characters doing completely stupid things. There's plenty of shows, and I mean, even if you want to look at the original Star Wars trilogy, if it was made for kids, by and large, like the characters do intelligent things throughout the most of that. You could argue, oh well, it was stupid for Luke to go fight Vader and that, but that's part of the whole point. That's part of his whole character arc and what makes Luke Skywalker Luke Skywalker. So making a character do something stupid and then just saying, well, it's for kids, so you can't really critique it. I don't buy that. I understand, yeah, Star Wars is ostensibly for kids. We all watched it as children. But kids can be a lot smarter about that stuff than one would think. I remember being a kid watching stuff and be like, well, that's dumb. Why are they making that decision? That's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So you can still make good kids content and things for children without also compromising entire, character traits and things of that nature.
I don't think the argument is. I don't think we should make the argument that no one should ever do anything stupid in a show, because there are a lot of stupid people. I think it needs to be, if someone's going to do something stupid and their character isn't just meant to be, it's got to be justified. Like if
we expect
says,
Jar Jar Binks to do something stupid, like we expect.
If anyone were to say that it was stupid for Luke to leave and go fight Vader in Empire Strikes Back, the counter is that, well, he felt his friends were going to die otherwise. Yes, he had no chance of winning, but he was willing to risk it because his friends were going to die. Therefore, it is justified. Boba Fett has no reason to not go and get his spaceship. He has no reason to not stay in the air. It's just, it happens because the rest of the script needed it to happen.
Yeah, and that's the problem with it. I mean, I'm not arguing. The visuals are cool. It was awesome watching a Rancor wreck shop. That was awesome. Great fun. But, I don't think it's too much to ask to demand that the writing at least give me a reason. Right? Give me a plausible, logical reason. Show me that the Slave One was damaged by Black Chrysanthemum when he broke into, Jabba's palace and almost killed Boba Fett. Show me
Show me that the Pike Syndicate, which apparently is this massive criminal organization, just has lasers shooting into the sky, and so a spaceship will get shot down. If Boba Fett and Mandalorian stay in the sky for too long, they will get shot down. No, they're just like, script page 4 said it's time for us to get on the ground, so down we go.
And it just makes the character of Boba Fett look like a complete fool and is stupid. And now when people argue, well, Boba Fett's just an idiot, well, yeah. I mean, I can't argue. I can't point to anything saying, well, no, he's not, other than Empire Strikes Back.
My conspiracy theorist thought is that, Ronan and I were never Boba Fett fans. We didn't get it. We thought the character basically existed in everyone's heads. And this show is meta commentary showing that we are correct, that Boba Fett was, in fact, an idiot, which is why he should have died at the end. This whole show should have just been the burial of Boba Fett.
Steve.
It was. Yeah, it technically could have been. I would have, like I said, with the show, I liked it. I would say it was okay. It was an okay show for me. I was very disappointed.
It's okay to be entertained by a bad show.
Yes. I would not put this as one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars media by any means. I don't think it was just this awful god awful dumpster fire that a lot of people on the internet. If I had to give it a letter grade, I would probably give it a C. That's what I would give it, because the vast majority of it I really liked. It's like, Boba Fett wasn't in episodes 5 and 6, but I fucking love those episodes. They were awesome episodes. Even though the finale was doing nothing but stupid shit, it was still awesome to see the Rancor. It was still awesome to see Mando fighting and all that stuff happening. Episode 2 I thought was awesome. I loved episode 2. It was just a couple episodes that I really didn't like, or just one that I really didn't like, and then 2 that I thought were just they're all right. Didn't really hate them, didn't think they were great. I just like So overall I liked the show. I'm disappointed because I don't know where this goes from here. I mean, literally at the finale, the last minute of the episode, Boba Fett's walking with Fennec Shand, and he's like, we're not cut out to do this. And I'm like, what? Because you're just...
I took that to mean he just didn't like the pageantry that was being...
That was my thing, because he didn't like people bowing.
But to me, how I took that is he doesn't want to be the crime lord. Because you cannot tell me that they are not going to bring Boba Fett back again. He's not going to sit on Tatooine and just go off and we're never going to hear from Boba Fett again. He's going to show up. So does that mean he's not going to be the crime lord? He's just going to hand it over to Fennec Shand? That's a good question. What do we expect going forward for Boba Fett and Fennec Shand and these characters that were in this season? Or is he just going to be part of Mando's team going forward? Is he going to help take back Mandalore?
Yeah,
Like,
he'll,
what is
he'll
happening?
show up. He'll show up in the inevitable Space Vengers crossover that they do.
My assumption would be that now bear in mind, it wouldn't be the first time, it wouldn't be the first time the Book of Boba Fett has made something else irrelevant, because the ending of Book of Boba Fett also makes like the ending of Mando season 2 irrelevant. But it would not totally shock me if they just made the whole show irrelevant by the next season, saying I got bored and went back to doing bounty hunting.
Well, yeah, that's a great point, Ronan, because there is some visceral backlash against Jon Favreau for sort of how he portrayed Boba Fett in this, and I'm genuinely curious if they are going to try to be like, we're going to make this up to you somehow, and I'm going to sort of change this. Do we see Boba Fett become sort of not a full villain, but make a turn, a heel turn at some point in time? Or is he just a good guy from now on? Because they really set him up as just a good guy from this point forward. What about Cobb Vanth? Is Cobb Vanth, they have this weird stinger where now he's going to be modded, just like the mod squad that Boba Fett was working with. What's going to be his deal? I'm left with a lot of questions at the end of this, and I don't feel like that they're...
None of them good questions.
I don't feel like where it's sort of said... It doesn't end on any sort of... anything that I'm interested to continue seeing, right? I'm interested to see the Mandalore stuff, and I want to see Din Djarin take back Mandalore and all of that. But man, I just don't know where you go with Boba Fett after this. I really don't.
Nowhere. You just abandon him.
No. I would assume, I doubt highly that they're going to suddenly make this show irrelevant. If they try to do that, their smart option, and this is like, if there was some executive meeting at Disney where they're like, oh, well, the backlash of the show has been very, very bad. They don't like the fact that we made Boba Fett, chaotic neutral. He's supposed to be like, super evil. Well, not super. I guess super evil would work too, because
he's not.
Vader tells him no disintegrations, which means at some point the Empire had Boba Fett do a job, and instead of bringing the body back warm, he disintegrated them, and it was an important thing. And so at some point or another, I don't want to say he fucked up on a mission, but he killed the target that they wanted. So
yeah, well, they set up in the show, Ronan. Cad Bane tells everybody Boba Fett's just a killer. He worked for the Empire. He's a cold-blooded killer. The whole point of this show, and they did it poorly, ultimately, how it all played out, was the redemption of Boba Fett, essentially. He comes out of the Sarlacc pit, with the Tusken Raiders, a changed man, and he's no longer going to be that guy. He tells Fennec Shand he's tired of doing that. He wants to sort of run the crime, he wants to be a crime lord, but not kill anybody and not get his hands dirty or something. It's weird.
The show, I recall, I don't know what episode it is. It might be 2 or 3, but there is an episode. There is a line that you can tell it's supposed to be like this grand. This is the moment. They're where you could point at it and say, "This is the moment." Where it's what you were talking about, where he's talking with Fennec, and he's like, "How many times have we been sent on a job to basically to end somebody? Where if cooler heads had just prevailed, if ego and pride hadn't gotten involved, where you could have just talked it out. How many times have you or I had to do that to somebody when there's a smarter way?" That's supposed to be the justification for why Boba Fett now suddenly is so against it. But I mean, but the counter.
Except for the fact that he just executed Bib Fortuna.
Yeah.
And all the speeder bike gang.
And the counter to Boba Fett's logic is in the first fucking Star Wars movie when Han Solo just shoots Greedo. Han shoots him first because that's just a smart play. Han knew Greedo was about to kill him. He had the shot. Pow! Han shot first. Wait,
what do you mean Han shot first? That's not in the version that I saw.
That's not what the creator says, Ronan.
he wore a fucking shirt that said Han shot first. All right, he's fucking trolling. But but you get the point. Like, there comes like Boba should be smart enough to know it's like, okay, if you're gonna do this, then try maybe harsh language to get your point across instead of the stick, or like every time. But there also does come a time where you just have to end somebody. Like, Bib Fortuna or whatever the fuck his name was.
And that's such a problem, because you cannot. The first scene of the Book of Boba Fett was the stinger for Mando season 2, and it's Boba Fett just walking up and shooting a dude and throwing him on the ground and sitting down, and you're like, okay, we're going to get what we've always wanted to see. Boba Fett's going to wreck shop. And then the first episode, it's like, no. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It was just poor writing. Poor writing. And it's weird because it's Jon Favreau. I mean, it's the same guy that's doing Mandalorian, and we've been saying the entire on all those, like, wow, look at all this respect Jon Favreau. He knows Star Wars. He knows these characters inside and out. He knows exactly. Look what everyone said at the end of season 2. Like, that's Luke Skywalker. That's the Luke Skywalker everybody wanted to see, and that's the one that everybody believes in and whatnot. He just gets all these characters, and then to so fundamentally get the character of Boba Fett wrong, especially with Dave Filoni just standing there. I mean, I can't imagine that Dave Filoni
Disagree.
said...
He got the character right, but he agrees with Ronan and I.
It's just...
There was no character. Because you can point at the comic books and all this other shit, but like, look at the Star Wars, or the base that's going to be watching this show. Like, maybe 1-2% of them is upbeat with what the comics are. The rest of them are just going to be, oh, Boba Fett, I remember him from the movie.
And I agree with you. And I think that's why the majority of people like this show, because they had no preconceived conception of who Boba Fett was, or what he brought to the table, and all the sort of baggage of people who were just immersed in the lore of Star Wars for 30 years, and played all the video games. Was it Shadow of the Empire? I still remember you fight Boba Fett as one of the main boss characters in Shadow of the Empire, and he's awesome.
Him or whatever in Shadow of the Empire. The first Star Wars game I remember killing him in, or beating him, whatever it was. One of the original first-person shooters back when they were all called Doom clones. It was Dark Forces where he's a villain in that. It's also where the Dark Troopers come from.
Yeah, and Boba Fett has a reputation amongst Star Wars fans, whether you feel it's deserved or not, with all the expanded universe and extended media, that people have an expectation. This is his character. It's just like how when people watch The Last Jedi and they're like, this is Luke Skywalker, and then they see Last Jedi, like, what the fuck? Who am I looking at? This is not the character that I've known and loved for 30 years, 40 years. This is a completely different character. Now, I feel like these characters, they're just botching, whether it's J.J. Abrams and Palpatine and Rise of Skywalker, or Rian Johnson and Luke Skywalker, or Jon Favreau and Boba Fett. It just feels like they missed what made the core of what made people love these characters, and they tried to be like, haha, subverted your expectations, didn't we? It's like, we don't want that. You don't have to subvert expectations of people just because, it'll be the cool thing to do. Sometimes people just like those core. There's a reason people fell in love with these characters, and when you fundamentally change what makes those characters them, sort of just so quickly on a whim, a brand new movie, completely different character. Congratulations, like, it's different. I want to tell a different story. Well, that's fine. You can make these characters change if you give proper setup to it, right? There should have been more proper setup to Boba Fett. Here's how I would have done this series. If Kathleen Kennedy would have been like, okay, Matt, pitch me the Book of Boba Fett. What are you going to do? I'm like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. He's going to be in the Sarlacc pit from the very beginning. Let's not have back-to-tank bullshit. He's unconscious. Let's have him flashing back to various moments in his life. Show me at least an episode of what Boba Fett was doing back in the days of the Empire. Show me that scene where he disintegrates whoever Darth Vader, hired him to go find and made Darth Vader pissed off. Show me that. I want to see that. Show me all of these various adventures he had. Then show me him waking up in the Sarlacc pit in a much better way. Like, he's got to get out of the Sarlacc pit. I mean, though, his expanded universe way he gets out is cooler than what they showed. I mean, literally, all it takes to get out of the Sarlacc pit is just to burn a hole through it and then dig your way out of the sand. That's stupid. I mean, come on. Give me something better with that. Then, yes, he's injured. He gets out of the Sarlacc pit. He's injured. Let the Tusken Raiders find him. I'm cool with that. I loved all that Tusken Raider stuff. Show me the story of how he turns. But you got to show me what kind of an asshole he was prior to that. You got to establish at least multiple scenes, if not episodes, of what he was like beforehand. So he's remembering his past. You could show me flashback scenes when he's with the Tuskens to his past, of different adventures he did, of that stuff. Then, when the Tusken Raiders teach him to be a better person and a better, being in the universe, and he helps them out, great. I'm going to buy this turn now because it's been established that he was an asshole psycho. Give me Cad Bane at the very beginning. End of episode 1. Show me that Cad Bane is there with the Pikes and that they're running this whole spice trade. Show me what the spice trade is doing to Tatooine. I keep getting told in this episode, look at this spice. It's being run, but I don't see any consequences of the spice. I don't see what's actually happening to the people of Tatooine and how this is like 80s New York City when crack cocaine was introduced and it's destroying the people of New York City. And, I don't see any of it because it's all been sanitized. I'm told it's bad, but I don't see why it's bad. So show me that kind of shit. Show me that Cad Bane's behind all of it. Then, when Boba Fett wants to come into town, wreck and shop, he's got a whole Tusken army behind him, and that's the conflict. The Tuskens are fucking up this spice trade with the Pikes, and that's our sort of conflict that's going on right here. What do the Pikes and what do Cad Bane do? They fucking hire multiple bounty hunters because we know bounty hunters are great. So when you have Black Chrysanthemum and you have other people, maybe these you have Bosk show up and he fucking takes out Fennec Shand, and Boba Fett has to deal with actual loss, because he's friends with Fennec. We've set that up, and boom, Fennec is taken out by a bounty hunter. Maybe that's how Mando gets involved. He's got a call out to Mando, bro, I need some help here, and this is what we're gonna do. Give me that. Give me that. Have the Hutts involved. Don't even put the Pikes involved. Make it the Hutts. The Hutts are the one. And then at the very end of this fucking thing, they set up in episode 1 of this show where Boba Fett's like, should I kill him? And Fennec Shan's like, you got to get permission to kill him. Permission from fucking who? Show me that. Show me Boba Fett at the finale of this thing going. We've established the Hutts are behind everything, right? Show me Boba Fett going in the last episode at the very end, the big bad of this show. Who is above the Hutts that he has to get permission to kill them? And they give him permission, and the end of this is Boba Fett fucking taking out some Hutts. Show me that, and I feel, and people might disagree with me, I feel like what I've just outlined here is an infinitely more interesting and entertaining show that would give Boba Fett sort of the due that fans want, better than what we got. And I don't feel
I have no fucking idea what that guy was thinking on that hand, but good job, Matt.
and so I look at this from just a creative perspective, and I'm disappointed by it. I'm like, this could have been so much more. It could have been something better than what we saw with Mandalorian Season 1 or Season 2. Could have been better. But it wasn't, and that disappoints me because I expect more from Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. I expected more, and I was disappointed and let down ultimately.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about the show. It started bad, it got a little better in the middle, and then it ended badly. The decisions that Boba Fett, legendary bounty hunter, decided to make in that final episode, it killed it for me. Like I have zero interest in watching a Book of Boba Fett season 2.
Here's a question: do you guys actually think Cad Bane is dead?
No.
Because I don't think he's dead.
No,
I think they had that long shot on him. It was like pushing in, and you heard that beep, beep, beep. So it's either he's not dead, and somehow he's going to be saved. He's calling out to someone to save him, or he's calling out to some bigger person to let.
It does seem odd that they would bring in such a well-known character like that for the last 2 episodes and then kill him. So yeah, I could go either way. Like, I kind of don't care if he doesn't come back, but I would expect him to come back.
And I think what's also really sad about this is I think people would argue Cad Bane's entrance to the show was more badass than anything Boba Fett did in the show. And I think that's a problem. I think you never got that really. Yes, he rides a Rancor around, but it didn't feel. It's like you knew he was going to win at that point or something. Yeah. Like even the showdown with Cad Bane. You're right. Cad Bane won the duel. Wasn't even close.
Everyone in this show except for the teenagers are cooler than Boba Fett.
Yeah. Like Fennec Shan does more. Yeah, Fennec Shan does more. Mando does more.
That's a good question. Who does less than Boba Fett in this show?
I'm trying to think.
The Vespa Squad, the kids? Even the kids tell Boba Fett what to do towards the end of the series.
Yeah, they boss him around. So
they tell him. I'm trying to think. What does Black Chrysanthemum do? He just gets shot a ton.
He gets shot, and just more into Boba Fett's brilliant tactical mind. He sends the Wookiee into the part of town run by the reptilians who
hate Wookiees. Yeah, they hate Wookiees.
Kill Wookiees as an offering to their hunter.
All by himself in the middle of the street.
Yeah. And so
I am very upset. Boba Fett's only friends that actually seem to die. Yeah, the Gamorreans were my favorite characters from this show. I wanted them to be in this.
The Gamorreans saved him.
Do something.
They saved him in episode 1. They saved his ass because they broke the stupid circle. Those guys were they're all encircling him, and they were the ones that saved him, and they just get pushed off a cliff.
Yeah. They should have come back basically like the Wookiee. They should have come back just covered in blood, axing down all of the Pike and the Pike warriors. But no, apparently they're actually just dead.
And you know what? You know what could have made Boba Fett just give him that brilliant tactical moment? It's when you think there's no one there to help. Cobb Vanth and his crew can't show up. No one's coming. They should have just set up no one is coming to help. And that's when Boba Fett's like, don't worry, we got this. And that's when all the fucking Tusken Raiders show up. Like a whole army, multiple clans of Tusken Raiders fucking show up and start wrecking shop. That would have been fucking great. That would have been awesome. And it would have shown and established that Boba Fett had a plan the entire time. And, he had it all under control. Nope, didn't do that. Didn't do it.
Every fight that Boba Fett is in, if he wins due to just sheer dumb luck or because one of his friends fights the battle for him. The one exception is Cad Bane at the end, which I would argue Cad Bane should have won that fight.
Cad Bane did win the fight.
Technically, don't forget when he fights the Sand Goro.
He takes out the monster. I mean,
he's a badass in the flashback.
There are scenes in this show where Boba Fett does awesome, cool things. Like the whole thing with the train, that was badass. I mean, no one could say that wasn't badass. It was an awesome sequence, awesome fight sequence. He does a lot of cool shit in this. The problem is, in the past, in the present day, he makes the dumbest choices and decisions. It's like, this is why I can't say that the show is just bad, because half the episodes basically with Boba Fett were cool flashback stuff. And we all pretty much agree that was all interesting. It was cool. It was good. He did cool stuff in it. But like the third of this series that was in the present modern day, it's like Jon Favreau did not understand what he was writing. It was just, we don't really know what the motivation for Boba Fett is. He wants to take over this criminal enterprise, but why? We don't ever really get a real reason why. He says, yeah, I want to stop, doing this. I don't want to work for people like this anymore. I want to do it myself. But why doesn't he just retire or go off and do something else? Why does he want to be a crime lord? Or does he not want to be a crime lord? Is he just trying to be the mayor of the town, like a good mayor? Fairness, I don't know.
In fairness, not to cut you off, but there is important. He assumes the title of daimyo. We assume that the daimyo is a crime lord because that's how Jabba, the previous daimyo, and what's his name,
Bib Fortuna,
they ran it like they were crime lords. But there's no guarantee that this just comes from Star Wars, like us not understanding the world because Star Wars doesn't explain its world and its rules very well. It never has. We don't know what the title of daimyo actually means. For all we know, it's essentially just a fancy word for the sheriff. Although, maybe that's what it kind of is. It's like he's just like a feudal king, and all his buddies are like squaws.
According to Wikipedia, daimyo is just defined as the ruler of Mos Espa.
Okay, so basically,
if it's Mos Espa though, but Jabba, I thought Jabba was in control of Mos Eisley and most of the planet, wasn't he?
Jabba was in control of pretty much everything. Yeah.
And the Hutts had influence outside of the world too, but
what is going on with his hand? Why did I put in 5,000 chips?
I don't know. I just looked and somehow I have 90,000 chips, and I don't really know how.
You got a flush a couple of hands back when you were in the middle of the conversation.
Did not even realize it.
but so that could be part of it, but that's not an excuse because that's Star Wars not explaining the way the world works, which is a problem even in the new trilogy too, and in Star Wars in general. They don't explain the world very well. The prequel movies tried it, Lucas fucked it up, and now they're scared of doing that again. But that could just be Boba Fett's. He doesn't necessarily want to be the crime lord. He just wants to be the sheriff or the duke or whatever old English.
Or a badass duke.
Yeah, the kick-ass duke.
Okay, hold on. You guys are all out. I have 3 of a kind, 3 9s. Should I go all in here?
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay.
Obviously.
All right. Doing it. Here we go. How many chips is this? Oh boy, here we go.
Oh shit, he's going in.
He's doing it.
He's got pocket aces.
Going all in. But that's...
Yes! I'm back over 1 million, gentlemen.
But so yeah, that could also be part of it. Is we just don't understand what the term means, and Boba Fett's just not wanting. He doesn't want to take the position the same way that Jabba did.
Right, and I think, that could be. But I think anybody logically who would be watching this show would say, okay, Jabba the Hutt is a criminal. He's a crime lord, and Boba Fett said he wants to take over Jabba's shit. Okay, and even here in the finale, remember when they're sitting in that blown up, Jennifer Beals thing got blown up, and Fennec Shand is pissed off because Boba Fett's still planning to run Spice. It's the kids that tell him don't do it. But Fennec Shand's like, wait a minute, that's a lot of money we'd be losing. They're still planning to do all of this shit and do criminal stuff. So I don't think, even within its own show, it's like Boba Fett's still going to be kind of a bad guy. He's still kind of doing shit. And then he's talked into, we're not going to do the Spice because that hurts our people. It's like he hasn't even talked. He hasn't even had a conversation with Fennec Shand over 7 episodes as to what are they going to do if they win this fucking war. It's just the writing was so bad, and I just can't believe it. I can't believe that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni wasn't the writer of the series. He did the episode with Luke, obviously with Ahsoka. I cannot believe that Dave Filoni would have been like, yeah, the fans are going to like this. Yeah, let's do this. Let's make Boba Fett an idiot. Fans are going to love it. I can't believe it. I just don't know why. I would love to see, because I have not seen any interviews with anybody. They do those Disney Gallery things on Disney Plus where they talk about the seasons and stuff like that.
You can't go on those. That's the publicity stuff.
Yeah,
like,
but
you're sat down and you're told to say nice things for the show because Mickey Mouse is in the background looking at you, cracking his knuckles.
But I hope there's at least some sort of explanation where Jon Favreau would have said why they decided to make Boba Fett the way they did, even if it's not going to be a 100%. The truth necessarily. I want some sort of answer. It's just weird. It was just weird. But overall, I bitched about. But here, like I said, I liked all of the flashback stuff. I loved all the stuff with Mando and that. I was entertained by the finale. There was only one episode I didn't like, so I can't say I didn't like this show. I did. But before we wrap this show up, let me ask you about the stuff with episode 6. Was it 5 or 6 with Grogu and Luke? That's episode 5, right? I don't know.
I think that's correct.
How do you guys feel?
That's episode 6 because 7 is the last one.
Okay, so how do you feel about basically Mando season 2.5? Tell me your thoughts. Because how did you feel? Do you feel like it was poorly set up, that they should not have done what they did, or do you feel like, hey, this was perfect, I love seeing what I did, I can't wait for Mando season 3? Do you feel it hurts Mando season 3? How are you guys feeling about it?
It was the episodes were good, but I felt like they basically just kind of wanted to reestablish the status quo and not have to make season 3 about returning to the status quo, because I expected season 3 of Mando to be Grogu free for at least the majority of it, but this feels like they decided actually we need to immediately bring Grogu back, so let's just knock this out now so we can save time in season 3. I don't know, I feel like I like those episodes. The Mando episodes are super entertaining in the middle of the show, but I feel like they kind of just invalidated the end of season 2.
That's because it's what they did. What I thought about the 2 episodes of The Mandalorian that got put into the Book of Boba Fett. The first episode was much better. Episode 5, I suppose, because that's the one that really kind of that's where you're going to be setting up. What season 3 is, I suppose what season 3 is going to be about. They're going to have to retake Mandalore, and he's going to do that so he can bathe in the waters or the well or whatever under the planet, because that's what he has to do to regain his honor and go back to the tribe or whatever. But then it goes back to what Steve was saying. It's the status quo effect. They couldn't even wait halfway through season 3. For fear that, oh god, we can't, we have to have Grogu in this because we need to keep selling those Grogu toys because everyone thinks Baby Yoda is adorable. They couldn't even go half of season 3 without doing that. They want people to know the second that the Mandalorian season 3 trailer should come out. It's like, hey, nothing changed at all. We're status quo effect. Everything is back to the way it was before. Everything's back to the way that you like it. Nothing changed. Don't be afraid. That sucks. That sucks a bit. I was kind of assuming they shouldn't have had Grogu show up in the end of the Book of Boba Fett, so that way we can keep the mystery going at least in the season 3 of Mandalorian as to whether he's going to show up or when he shows up. Because you could have kept him on the planet, have flashback in this episode. Well, not a flashback. Here's a cutaway to Grogu training with Luke, but you can tell that he's not really into it because he misses Mando. Here's another cutaway, another episode later where Luke eventually figures out that okay, he's got too much attachment. He's gonna have to make that choice now. They stuck it in the Book of Boba Fett, and instead of putting it in the show where it belonged. So,
I agree. I think that would have been a really good idea.
Man, Luke put a really adult decision on a character that everyone thinks is a baby.
It's 50 years old.
An 80-year-old baby. Yeah,
50.
Right,
yeah.
but what is that in Yoda years? Is he the equivalent of a 2-year-old Yoda?
See, I think that, the sequel trilogy really fucked up everything, because it's clear now that they're not retconning the sequel trilogy, which is disappointing to me, because what I think that what they should have done with Luke Skywalker and all of this stuff, like let's imagine a universe in which the sequel trilogy did not exist.
The best timeline.
Yeah, the best timeline. Luke Skywalker, he kind of rejected, in the original trilogy, he rejected the ways of the Jedi. He was attached to people. He left Yoda and Obi-Wan to go help his friends because he loved his sister and he loved his friends to go help him on Bespin. He loved his father and believed in his father, that his father could be redeemed. What it should have been is Luke Skywalker creates a new Jedi Academy, but it's his own version of teaching the Force. It's not the same way. But what they've done is the sequel trilogy with Last Jedi basically said, nope, Luke Skywalker did the exact same thing that Obi-Wan and Yoda and all of them did, and it led to the destruction of the temple, and it made him it made him a bitter old man. He just repeated the exact same mistake that the original trilogy showed and established that he was not going to make. He did the exact same fucking thing. So now this has to be how Luke acts when he interacts with Yoda, because if he said, or with Grogu, sorry, Baby Yoda, because Luke Skywalker can't say, well, yeah, you can have attachments to Din and still be a Jedi. That's fine. You can't do that now because of all of the shit that they did in the sequel trilogy and already establishing what happens. So when Luke Skywalker is making him make a choice and people are like, oh, that's a dick move, why would Luke Skywalker do that? Well, exactly. Why would Luke Skywalker do that? Because, again, you're changing a fundamental aspect of the character that has been established in the original trilogy. And it's painting them into this box that I don't think they can get away with. They should have just made Luke Skywalker, I'm starting a new Jedi thing, and it's going to be my teachings, and we are going to say attachment's going to be fine, and we are going to be able to still be able to be a Jedi with attachments, and it won't lead you to the dark side. No, they didn't do that.
Do you think that maybe they're going to try to remedy that through Mando? Like Mando would basically, not go back to the blacksmith and the guy whose family created the Darksaber, and he just kind of starts his own tribe separate from the one he left behind, where the way changes to accommodate his new worldview?
Well, it's a good point. I would argue there's already plenty of Mandalorians out there that are kind of that way already. We've already seen the ones that don't wear masks and all that stupid shit.
That's what I was thinking of.
Mandalorian is literally like a crazy cult. I mean, it's like Bo-Katan says, they're like religious fanatics. There's a whole thing where a lot of people, one of the theories is that the armorer was actually one of Darth Maul, one of the people that followed Darth Maul when he had the Darksaber. That's why she's got the horns on her helmet. They're all like religious fanatics, and so I think what they're going to do, they're going to Din's evolution is going to be like, this is not the way. And I'll bet you he'll actually say that to them at some point. He's going to have to fight the armor, I bet, at some point in time. And that'll be the line, this is not the way. Or something like that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's like we're establishing like Luke Skywalker's out there. Clearly he's, the Deus Ex Machina for everything. And that's kind of a problem because, they're setting up Thrawn. Clearly, he was already name dropped. Thrawn is going to be the big... They cannot fuck up Thrawn. I mean, you think people are mad about Boba Fett. If they fuck up Thrawn and they're setting him up as the big bad villain and they do him dirty, people are going to turn... We were waiting on, are they going to turn on Favreau for what he did to Boba Fett? If they fuck up Grand Admiral Thrawn. That's what's going to happen. And people are going to look at all this stuff as one big connected story in a really bad way. But it's like, what do you do? Even if you have Grand Admiral Thrawn out there, what do you do with Luke? Can't you just call Luke in at the last minute, and is he going to save the day? I mean, I don't know what they're doing.
That's when you reintroduce in the canon those weird flying bird reptile thingies from the Thrawn book that actually
take away the Force.
That actually negate the Force that Thrawn kept in his private room to protect himself from the clone Jedi.
What was
that book was written before the Clone Wars was actually established to be just a bunch of clone Mandalorians.
That sounds so fucking stupid.
Yeah. So ultimately, we're all still excited for Mando season 3, right? I mean,
I'm not as excited anymore. I'm still gonna watch it. I hope it's good, but I would be if Star Wars gets one more thing wrong. I would be willing to abandon it at this point.
Okay, so the next thing is Obi-Wan, right?
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan. Now that character as portrayed by Ewan McGregor, I would say is beloved by every Star Wars fan. Everybody.
One of maybe 2, possibly 3 good things that came out of the prequel trilogy was Ewan McGregor's playing a portrayal of Obi-Wan.
Yeah, so everybody loves Obi-Wan Kenobi. I like to give Alyssa shit because that's her favorite character in Star Wars. But even I have to admit, yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi is an awesome character. We all love Obi-Wan Kenobi. What do you think is going to happen if they fuck up this Obi-Wan show? That's the next thing right after people are disappointed. A lot of hardcore Star Wars fans disappointed with Book of Boba Fett. We roll into Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's a shit show. They fuck it up. How do you feel like the reaction is going to be? It's just going to be nothing but toxicity, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like the last season of Game of Thrones, where the directors of that show had all of these all these different shows and stories, including a Star Wars. And I feel like if they ruin Obi-Wan, then maybe Favreau's not going to be kind of one of the men in charge anymore. I'm assuming he's writing this as well.
I don't even know what the power structure in Lucasfilm or whatever is.
Who is writing that? Let me look, 'cause I don't know if Favreau actually wrote Obi-Wan. I don't know if he and Filoni really have anything to do with it.
I think they have one more shot, and if they ruin it again, I would expect there to be some sort of big shakeup.
For starters, I don't know what the power structure is at Lucasfilms anymore. Supposedly, the various movie insider channels have been saying now for 2 years Kathleen Kennedy's on the way out. She's totally fucked up. Nobody wants her around. The only reason she's still there is because they can't get anybody to take the job.
Oh no, guys. Oh no.
But supposedly she is the one.
Rian Johnson is writing Obi-Wan, right?
No. Okay, so Jon Favreau is not writing Obi-Wan. He doesn't really have anything to do with Obi-Wan. This is a guy.
It's Kennedy.
Well, this is a guy named Joby Harold, and it says here, Joby Harold has been tapped to write the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series at Disney+. Variety has learned exclusively from sources. His most recent stuff, Zack Snyder's film Army of the Dead, and he was one of 2 writers who developed the new Transformers franchise at Paramount. So he's doing Transformers stuff.
He's doing Rise of the Beast,
I guess. So he's doing Transformers, and he just did the Zack Snyder Army of the Dead thing that came out on Netflix, that zombie movie.
Oh yeah, that's a good one to go into one day. Talk about how just weird and fucked off that one is.
I have not seen it, but let me look at all of his writing credits. He's got to have something else. But I do find it interesting that Favreau's not involved in this one.
Yeah, so the stuff I was hearing is that Kennedy is really the showrunner of that. And the show was supposed to have come out like a year or so ago, but they scrapped it at the last minute because supposedly, again, all this is shit that you'll hear through like these movie insider YouTube channels, and most of them are all piggybacking off of each other. One person tells a story and everyone else repeats that story. So this could all be absolute horseshit. But supposedly, they had the script ready for the Obi-Wan show, and it turned out that the plot line for it was way too similar to the plot line of The Mandalorian. So they basically had to scrap it and redo the entire thing from scratch, supposedly. But it's supposed to be Kathleen Kennedy mainly in charge of it.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this guy's... So the writer of the Obi-Wan series has 4 writing credits to his name. He has a movie called Awake that came out in 2007. Then in 2017, he wrote King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Then he did the screenplay for Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, and he's doing Obi-Wan now, and then he's doing Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I would think he would hire like a more well-known writer.
No, he's gonna Ryan Johnson the fuck out of this. He's gonna subvert our expectations, guys. That's what viewers want these days.
It's weird. That
okay. Motherfucker better not get Optimus Primal wrong. That's all I got to say. But yeah, I'm not too. If Obi-Wan turns out to be a shit show, if it turns out wrong, then like I already don't know how the power structure is over there, but I would imagine like the big 3 that are there, Filoni, Favreau, and Kennedy. I don't see how they stay. At that point, because collectively the 3 of them would be responsible for all of it.
Well, see, I disagree. I think Filoni's kind of untouchable. I don't think they would do anything to Filoni because Filoni, Jon Favreau wrote everything in Book of Boba Fett except for that one episode that was Dave Filoni directed and like co-wrote it, the one with Luke Skywalker in it. Otherwise, Filoni didn't really have anything to do with this. So at least with the Book of Boba Fett, and I don't know if he has anything to do. I mean, if Jon Favreau has nothing to do with Obi-Wan, I don't see why Dave Filoni would have anything to do with Obi-Wan either. But I don't think that they would kick them out because I still think, I mean, they're going to get huge ratings with this. Huge ratings. And everyone knows, and Dave Filoni is doing the Ahsoka show. And he's writing that whole thing himself. Jon Favreau is not writing that. It's Dave Filoni. He's like, these are my characters. I am writing this thing. So I think Filoni's kind of untouchable. Now, Kathleen Kennedy, people have been saying she was going to get fired for like the last 5 years, and it never happens.
I don't buy it. She keeps getting like contract extension.
Yeah.
Supposedly under the table, which tells me like this is all just fans jacking each other off.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like all these Star Wars fans, there's always that joke. It's like you can't love Star Wars unless you hate Star Wars. And it's kind of true because it's like these Star Wars fans just get so angry and so toxic, like we use Book of Boba Fett, tons of toxicity online about that. There's a lot of shit in the Book of Boba Fett I didn't like, but overall I liked the movie. I'm not going to get and just trash the movie all over the place, or the show all over the place, but they're going to get so the ratings for Obi-Wan are going to be nuts. Darth Vader is going to be in it. People are going to watch it just for that. And, the quote-unquote normies, the people who are not into Star Wars, I know plenty of people who watched the Book of Boba Fett and they liked it just fine. They are not into the lore. They are not into anything like, oh, cool, Mando's there. Oh, cool, Boba Fett's doing some cool shit. Oh, neat, Grogu's back. This is all cool. I like it. Those people are going to just shoot the ratings for these shows through the roof, and what ammo do you have to fire Kathleen Kennedy or Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni? They're just going to go to Disney and be like, look at all the subscribers we're giving you. Look, you got 6 million more subscribers because of all of this shit. I think the last quarter, Disney said that they exceeded their expectations on Disney Plus subscriptions. They were looking to get 8 million. They ended up getting 12 million. And that was in one quarter. Shot way past their expectations. Why? Because people, whether we like this or think, what Boba Fett's character is, he's making dumb decisions, it doesn't matter. People like it. They're enjoying it. Why do you think the Michael Bay Transformers movies made billions of dollars?
Because people are fucking stupid.
Yeah, because people don't care. They just want an entertaining time.
Yeah, that's bringing up the numbers and how people like it. Like that's not a good that's not a voucher for quality, because what Steve just said about the Transformer movie.
I agree with you. It's not a vouch. It's not
if only the Transformers had been good.
It's not. It doesn't vouch for the overall quality of it. But the point is, people don't really care, right? Because from their perspective, it is quality. You know, all those people that have all the. Oh, let me look at my cards here real quick. Okay, fold.
Eventually, not to just like enter, but eventually though, is like even the normies come around. Like you look at the last.
Oh, sure.
Bumblebee and the one before that, like Last Night or whatever it is, where Optimus Prime becomes Nemesis Prime. That was the first Transformer movie that just straight up bombed. It didn't break a billion.
Oh, sure.
That was a hard fucking drop too. It's like, so the normies will eventually get tired of stuff, and that's kind of the same. Like you look, like they got tired of Star Wars, like the new trilogy. That's part of why it's in the shape it's in now. Force Awakens made $2 billion, and by the time they got to Rise of Skywalker, they had lost over half the audience, because that movie barely made $1 billion. So they dropped half the audience.
But keep things in perspective. Any film that makes over $1 billion, there's only been like 30 of them in the history of cinema. So even $1 billion, that's showing you how much people still like it. I mean, if you were to tell Disney, okay, you're never going to make $2 billion of the Star Wars movie ever again, but we guarantee you'll make $1 billion. They're going to be like, absolutely. How much does this cost us to make and market? And you're telling us we're going to make at least $1 billion every single movie? Totally cool with it.
You see, I kind of actually disagree with you there. For a slightly different reason, and it's mainly just because of greed. Like, at a certain point, these companies, and it's not enough to make good money. They got to make all of the money. So it's like most franchises would be thrilled, ecstatic, to make $1 billion. That's a huge amount of money. But but this franchise did make $2 billion at one point. That's a good chunk of change that you're not making. And when you say like, well, you know, the movie's going to break in $1 billion in revenue, that's not $1 billion in Disney's pocket. You know, like depending on the amount,
oh, sure.
Like, a lot of that goes away from them. So
right.
Like really. So I mean, when they see that it can make $2 billion, but now you expect them to settle for half. I don't know if they would be okay with that.
I don't think that Force Awakens was literally the only Star Wars film that's ever made $2 billion. I don't think that's. I think Force Awakens was benefited from. You had, you know, every Star Wars fan ever was just excited to see a new Star Wars movie after however many years. There's all kinds of other factors that went into making that a unique sort of hit. I mean, look at how many Marvel films are far more popular, you could argue, and only Endgame and Infinity War actually hit $2 billion. I mean, so not even Marvel movies can hit that sort of level. So I would argue that Force Awakens is an aberration, and that no studio, Disney is not going to expect that, oh, well, if Force Awakens hit $2 billion, every Star Wars movie is going to hit $2 billion. Just like they don't think, well, if Endgame hit $2 billion, every Marvel movie better hit $2 billion. That would be my argument for that.
Well, it's like, again, like that's not necessarily. It's like, they're gonna they have a number now that they can expect for it, and what should be a good amount isn't just because, again, of greed. Like I'll give a different example from a different studio. Man of Steel. Warner Brothers was fucking certain that Man of Steel was going to be this huge critical hit, this huge fan hit, over $1 billion. They were expecting like $1.5 billion or something like that. That was their expectation, and then the movie barely makes like $700 million. But now it made profit, but they weren't satisfied with that profit. That was a disappointment because they had set themselves up. They believed that they were going to get more,
sure,
and then they didn't. So again, it's like I don't see them just settling for that, since they know it can do more. Even if it's like, okay, barely, like let's like Last Jedi, barely made $1 billion. That's a hell of a drop off. They should at the very least expect what Rise of Skywalker made. not Rise of Skywalker. I got the movies mixed up. Rise of Skywalker barely made $1 billion. Last Jedi made like $1.5 billion or so. Like that's
Right.
kind of what they should expect for a mainline one. But they also, I hear Jim Cornette mention this a lot with wrestlers. It's like people can't miss you if you don't go away for a while. And Disney decided to churn out Star Wars movies like they were Marvel movies. We need 2 a year, baby. We gotta cram these motherfuckers out. And they oversaturated their own fan base.
I don't know. Would you say that? Well, could we make the argument that Marvel is oversaturated? These movies make gigantic sums of money, and now they're putting out like 4 Marvel movies a year, and the television shows are huge. So I don't know.
I don't know. Like, there's still variables that mess this up too. Like COVID and theater chains and shit like that kind of still throw monkey wrenches into the equation. So I mean, I don't know. It's long been predicted for a while now that because eventually people will start to get tired of the Marvel stuff. It's not even necessarily because the quality's bad. Like eventually they'll start to. It's like more or less. I pick and choose what I go and see now. I didn't see Shang-Chi because I don't care. I didn't see the Eternals because I don't care. I'm not even too invested in most of the shows that they're advertising. I just don't care about She-Hulk. I'll see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Right,
So,
but here's the thing, Ronan. You might not be interested or into them anymore, but the next generation of people are taking your place. So there's another Matt somewhere in Memphis who's like 10, who's like, I love this, and I'm going to watch every single one of these movies, and they're just replacing you. Because the power of sort of Marvel movies is these characters can go on forever. And every kid loves comic books and superheroes and things of that nature. That's why that's why so many of these stories exist forever. And you can just keep recycling them over and over and over again. Like Spider-Man will never go away, because no matter how many people, if you're like, oh, I'm tired of watching Spider-Man movies, I'm never going to watch a Spider-Man movie ever again. There's going to be 10 kids coming up that are going to replace you, and these studios can be like, well, we lost Ronan, but we have 9 others that are going to take his place, and we're going to get the money from there. So I don't know if people will necessarily. Now, there might be people who get fatigued, be like, okay, I'm taking a break from these for a while, or I'm something like that. I don't know that people are just like, you're going to have a day where Marvel movies just suddenly no one goes to see them anymore, and they're just done. Kevin Feige's like, well, now the movies are only making $500 million, so I guess we're going to stop making Marvel. Disney will make Marvel movies forever. Absolutely forever.
Once they stop making a profit, because I mean, like that's the same kind of logic that I'm sure Activision thought when they were pumping out Tony Hawk games and Rock Band games and Guitar Hero games. You eventually kill off the audience if you oversaturate it. That is just the thing that happens.
I think that's a bit different because video games require interaction. You can, I don't think comparing movies to video games is a great, great comparison here.
But doesn't Activision still make tons of money? Like, I always hear people bitching about Activision games, or like, oh, we're bitching about the next Call of Duty game, or Star Wars Battlefront, whatever. And it turns out these things are making hundreds of millions of dollars because there's still 5 million people that will buy them at $60 a pop. So I mean, I guess how I know we all live in a bubble, right, of specific stuff, and I just wonder, I'm curious, is like, how bad are these companies actually doing? Because if these companies, I mean, it's like any capitalist country or company, right? If something is going bad and is affecting your business model, it is not in your best interest to keep doing that shit. So if somebody's like, well, you know what, we're going to stop watching Star Wars, and we're seeing the drop, and we're seeing the negative feedback people had for the sequel trilogy. So guess what we're going to give them? We're going to give them the Luke Skywalker they always wanted. We're going to give them Mandalorian. Oh, well, now everybody's back in it. It's not going to be in Disney's best interest to continue to make stuff that causes people to stop watching their product. So they would just change course. That's why I'm wondering, are they going to change course with Boba Fett? Are we going to see in Mandalorian Season 3 Boba Fett doing shit that fans wanted to see him do in the series because of the negative feedback that they got? I don't know.
Is there even because I don't even think that there's a season 2 of it announced yet.
No.
Has it been announced?
No, they never announced anything.
I don't know how accurate. I don't even remember where I heard it from. So I can't vouch for how accurate it is. At some point or another, I had heard that Book of Boba Fett was just kind of a one shot, that they didn't have plans for it to be like a long running series.
Yep.
But so that would essentially mean that now Boba Fett's role in any of these other shows is just going to be like an information broker, I guess. We need information about this criminal underworld thing. Well, good thing I got an in. Cut to Tatooine. There's Boba Fett.
Tatooine. Tatooine. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see sort of where they go from here. But yeah, they didn't leave.
Boba Fett will become the Penguin.
The end of the Book of Boba Fett did not leave any room really for further character growth, I guess. If their point was Boba Fett's a good guy now, that's what we wanted to establish with the Book of Boba Fett. He's a good guy. He'll help out Mando whenever Mando needs help. Okay, they accomplished that. But I think Boba Fett's story is kind of over from here, except his sister is still running around out there. Omega is still out there. So you can't tell me that they're not going to do that at some point, that they're not going to meet up or something. Because they established Omega in the Bad Batch, and she is still, presumably she's not dead, and she's still out there. So that would, I guess that would be the story. If they would have set something up like that, then I'd be interested. I'm like, oh, sweet, there's the stinger. The stinger of the show is Omega shows up, his sister. That's a story I'd be interested in hearing about, but they didn't do anything like that, so I don't know.
What the hell is this guy doing?
Do it, Steve. Do it.
Do it?
What do you got?
Oh,
I'm out.
This is dumb. This is real dumb.
Look at that pile of chips. Look at it.
Oh, I folded a Jack 4.
I'm glad I'm not in this hand. I folded complete trash.
I had nothing.
Oh, pair of aces.
Pocket aces. Son of a bitch.
Wow.
So I completely checked out of the Star Wars talk, and I'm reading about Cambodian blood slaves. That should be our next movie.
Cambodian blood slaves. What are Cambodian blood slaves?
People are getting kidnapped, taken to Cambodia, and then they have their blood stolen, and they're basically just kept alive for the sole purpose of having their blood harvested.
Oh my.
Oh my god, the adrenochrome farms are here. He was real. Oh my god.
It's a rough world out there, guys.
Yeah, let's never go to China and or Cambodia.
And with that, we wrap up this episode of Two Mats, One Steve.